Welcome to the ZenVoice Lab.
Let me tell you something weird. There was one simple thing that completely changed my life. It's called the 10-minute rule. And honestly, it quietly helped me stop overthinking and start actually living my life again.
Wait, just 10 minutes? That sounds way too simple to change anything.
That's exactly what I thought. But the crazy part is, this one small idea started to fix something I didn't even realize was broken. My mind was always overthinking, and my life was just stuck on pause.
When you say stuck on pause, what do you mean?
I mean, I was technically living my days, but I wasn't actually living them. I would wake up, scroll my phone, think about what I should do. And somehow, the day would disappear.
Yeah. I know that feeling. It's like your brain is awake, but your life isn't moving.
Exactly, and the worst part is, I wasn't lazy. I was just stuck in this loop of overthinking everything.
So the overthinking part was the real problem?
Yeah, because I wasn't avoiding work, I was avoiding starting. And I didn't realize it at the time, but overthinking was basically stealing my life.
That's kind of intense, stealing your life.
But it's true, because when you overthink everything, you feel busy in your head, but nothing actually changes outside.
So you were thinking a lot, but not really living?
Yeah, and that's the part that hurts the most. Because you start feeling like you're always preparing for life, but never actually in it.
That's a sad place to be.
It is, and I didn't know how to fix it until I found something really simple. Something that helped me stop overthinking and actually start living again.
What was it?
It sounds almost too simple, but it changed everything. I just told myself, do it for 10 minutes, that's it.
That's it? Just 10 minutes?
Yeah, no pressure, no commitment, no fix your life mindset. Just 10 minutes of action.
And that actually helped you stop overthinking?
More than I expected, because that's where I realized something important.
What?
The problem was never that I couldn't do things. It was that I couldn't start.
So you're saying the 10-minute rule helped you start, but I'm still trying to understand something. Why do we even get stuck like that in the first place?
Yeah, that's the real question, because nobody wakes up thinking, I want to overthink my whole day. But somehow, it still happens.
For me, it usually doesn't start with something big, it's small things. Like I open my phone just to check the time, then I see one notification, then I think, I'll just reply quickly. And suddenly I'm not even in my day anymore.
Yeah, it's like your attention gets hijacked. Not in a dramatic way, but in small, quiet steps.
Exactly. And the scary part is, it doesn't feel wrong in the moment. It feels normal.
Right, and that's why it's so hard to notice. Because overthinking doesn't feel like a problem at first. It feels like preparing. I used to sit at my desk, ready to work. And instead of starting, my brain would start doing this thing. It would open like 10 tabs in my head. Like, should I start with the easy task first? What if I mess this up? Maybe I should watch one video to get in the mood.
That sounds like mental chaos.
It is, and the funny thing is, I looked busy. But I wasn't actually doing anything. I was just negotiating with myself all day.
So it's not really laziness, it's more like internal noise?
Exactly, overthinking is just action delayed by too many thoughts.
That's actually really accurate. Because you still feel tired, even though you didn't do much.
Yeah, mental fatigue without progress. That's the worst combination.
And then later at night, everything feels heavier.
Yeah, that's when your brain becomes honest, it starts replaying your whole day. And suddenly you hear thoughts like, you had time today, you could have started earlier, why did you wait again?
That part hurts a little.
Yeah, because it's not loud, it's quiet. And quiet thoughts stay the longest.
I think what makes it worse is, you start believing that's just who you are. Like maybe you're just someone who can't start.
Yeah. I thought that too, I thought I just needed more discipline. Or more motivation, or a better routine.
But none of that really worked?
Not really, because the problem wasn't effort, it was entry.
Entry?
Yeah, starting, that first 2 to 3 minutes where your brain resists everything.
So that's where everything breaks?
Exactly, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that's why the 10-minute rule worked.
Because it skips the pressure of starting big?
Yeah, it removes the negotiation, it doesn't ask you to change your life. It just says, start for 10 minutes.
And somehow, that was enough?
Yeah, because once you're in motion, your brain stops fighting you.
That's interesting, like your mind only resists before you begin.
Exactly, and that's where everything started to shift for me. But the real change didn't happen yet.
It didn't?
No, because understanding it, and actually living it, are two different things.
So, we talked about being stuck in your head. We talked about overthinking, and that loop that never really stops. But I still don't fully understand. How does something as small as 10 minutes actually change that?
Yeah, that's the part one didn't believe at first either. Because when someone first told me about the 10-minute rule, I honestly thought it was kind of a joke. The idea is simple, you don't commit to finishing anything. You don't commit to doing it perfectly. You don't even commit to doing it well. You just commit to 10 minutes of starting, that's it.
That sounds almost too small to matter.
I know, but that's exactly why it works, because your brain doesn't panic. It doesn't resist as much, it doesn't start negotiating with you.
So what actually changes in your head?
Overthinking usually happens before action, it's like this invisible wall your brain builds. But when you say, just 10 minutes, you're not asking your brain to agree with a big decision. You're just stepping over the wall.
So you trick your own mind?
Yeah, in a way, but not in a dishonest way, it's more like lowering the pressure so action can happen naturally.
I think I understand, but I also feel like I would still hesitate. Like, even 10 minutes feels hard when you're stuck.
That's exactly what I felt too. At first, I didn't believe it would work. I remember sitting there thinking, what's the point of 10 minutes? That's nothing. But one day, I tried it anyway. I told myself, okay, just 10 minutes, then I can stop if I want. So I opened my laptop and started working, nothing special. Just small steps.
And did you stop after 10 minutes?
That's the funny part. I didn't. After about 10 minutes, something shifted, not motivation, not discipline, just momentum.
Momentum?
Yeah, it's like your brain stops resisting once you're already moving. The hardest part isn't continuing, it's starting.
So it helped you actually do things, not just think about them?
Exactly, and slowly. I stopped living in my head all day, because instead of thinking, I should start, I was already starting.
That sounds like a completely different way of living.
It is, because when you stop overthinking, you create space for action. And when you start acting, you actually start living.
I like that idea, because it's not about changing your whole life overnight. It's just breaking the loop.
Yeah, you don't need a perfect plan, you don't need a new identity. You just need a small entry point into action.
But I'm curious. Did it actually change your life long term? Or was it just a small productivity trick?
At first, I thought it was just productivity, but later I realized it wasn't about getting more done. It was about becoming someone who stops waiting.
Stops waiting for what?
For motivation, for the perfect mood, for the right moment.
And just starts anyway?
Yeah, and that changed everything.
So after you started using the 10-minute rule, what actually changed in your daily life? Because I feel like a lot of things sound good in theory, but real life is different.
Yeah, that's a fair question, because honestly, nothing changed instantly. There wasn't a before and after moment, it was more like a slow shift. At first, I used it just for work. I'd sit down and say, okay, 10 minutes, that's all. Sometimes I'd stop after that, sometimes I'd continue, but something interesting started happening.
What was it?
I stopped negotiating with myself so much. Before, I would spend 30 minutes thinking about starting. Now, I just started, even if it was messy, even if I didn't feel ready.
So your mind got quieter?
Yeah, not silent, but quieter, because overthinking needs time to grow. But when you start acting quickly, you don't give it that time.
That makes sense. It's like cutting off the loop before it fully forms.
One day I remember clearly. I had this task I kept postponing for almost a week. Every day I'd think about it, stress about it, avoid it, classic cycle.
We all have that one thing.
Yeah, so instead of thinking about it again, I just said, 10 minutes, that's it. No thinking, no planning, just opened the file and started.
And did it feel different?
Yeah, because within those 10 minutes, something changed, not the task itself, but my resistance.
Your resistance?
Yeah, it's like my brain stopped fighting me, and once that happened, I naturally kept going. Not because I had to, but because I was already in motion.
So you stopped preparing to live and started actually living your day.
Exactly, that's the best way I can describe it. Before, my days were full of thinking about life, now, they're full of actually doing things in life.
That sounds like a completely different mindset.
It is, because overthinking keeps you in your head. But action pulls you into reality.
I think the most surprising part is how small the change is. It's not a huge system, not a big routine, just 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that's why people underestimate it. They think change has to feel big. But most real changes start small.
So what changed more, your productivity or your mindset?
My mindset, because I stopped seeing myself as someone who needs motivation. And started seeing myself as someone who can start even without it.
That's powerful.
Yeah, because once you trust yourself to start, you don't get stuck as often anymore.
So if you had to summarize it, what did the 10-minute rule really change for you?
It didn't give me more time, it gave me back control over my time.
And overthinking?
It didn't disappear, but it stopped leading my life.
So you started living again.
Yeah, quietly, but for real.
You know, after hearing everything we talked about today, I keep thinking about how something so small, like 10 minutes, can actually change the way someone lives their day.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's not really about the 10 minutes. It's about what happens after you stop overthinking and finally start.
I feel like most people think they need a big transformation. Like a new routine, a new identity, a new version of themselves. But in reality, they're just stuck in their thoughts too long before starting anything.
Exactly, overthinking makes everything feel bigger than it is. And when things feel too big, you don't start at all.
So the solution wasn't to think better, it was to act sooner?
Yeah, you don't need a perfect mindset, you don't need perfect motivation. You just need a small entry point, something simple enough that your brain can't argue with it.
And that's where start living actually begins, right?
Yeah, because once you start acting, you stop living inside your head. And you come back to real life, even if it's messy, even if it's small.
So it's not really about being productive, it's about becoming someone who doesn't wait so much anymore.
Exactly, you stop being someone who says, "I'll start later," and slowly become someone who just starts.
Alright, before we finish, let's do a quick word tour, just the key ideas from today. Overthinking. Thinking too much about something instead of acting.
I was overthinking everything, so I never started. Stuck in your head. When your thoughts stop you from taking action.
I was stuck in my head all day instead of living my life. Take action. To do something instead of just thinking about it.
You don't need to feel ready. Just take action. Momentum. The energy that builds after you start doing something.
Once I started, I built momentum and kept going. Start living. To actually experience life instead of just planning it.
I stopped overthinking and started living my life. The 10-minute rule. A simple method, just start something for 10 minutes without pressure.
10 minutes is enough to break the cycle. I think if someone is listening right now, and they feel stuck or overwhelmed, maybe they don't need a big change today.
Yeah, maybe they just need one small moment of action, not later, not tomorrow, just now.
Because sometimes, life doesn't change in big steps.
It changes in small starts.
And maybe 10 minutes is enough to quietly change everything.